Coach Matt here. This is the Coach's Handbook.
This the best time. Why you wanna be an outcast? Numbers don't lie. You gain a lot from this math class. It takes time to be great. You can learn the lesson. Blood, sweat, and tears. Heartbeat of a champion. Big or small, your heart is the biggest weapon. So follow before you lead and water and plant your seeds. When it's all said and done, you be the best they ever seen. So listen to my catalog on this coach's blog.
Hey everyone. Tonight's guest, oddly enough, thought it would be a smart thing to start coaching high school right out of college. And he's coached travel and ASO soccer leagues. Coach Coach Dee, thanks for joining us. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to dig in tonight. So we're just going to go through some questions and have some fun. How's that sound?
That's excellent.
All right. Okay. So one of the things that you've talked to me about is you played a ton of sports as a kid. You were an athlete, right? Can you just briefly break down all the sports that you played?
I tried everything. My mom or dad would ask me, "Do you want to try something?" And I would absolutely say yes. I played soccer, basketball, baseball, football. I ran cross country. I was a diver. I played tennis. Those all come to mind pretty much top of my head.
No cricket?
I didn't have that opportunity. I'm sure I would have if I had the chance.
So your parents was the one that drove you to that, or did you really want to do it? I mean, or was it a mixture of both?
It probably was just a mixture. My parents just kept, they would always ask. It was never like a, "Hey, you need to go do this." It would be, signups for football are coming up. Do you want to sign up? Yes, I do. They're signing up for, they're signing up for soccer. They're signing up for indoor soccer. They're signing up for basketball. And that was even actually basketball is all on my own, right? That started at school for us. And it was tryouts for basketball are coming up. And I'd go tell my mom, tryouts for basketball are coming up. I need to be there after school on such and such a day. So I like to play. I'm a competitive person by nature, and I just like to compete. I'm a younger brother, and so maybe that makes me more competitive because you're always competing against your older brother. I remember the kid next door when I was in elementary school was a year older than I was, and we'd go out and play basketball. We'd go play baseball. We were part of that group of kids that whatever we could do, we would go play outside and we would play it. Home run derby, sure, let's do it. You want to play football in the backyard? Let's go. And I think I was fortunate to have people to spend time with, and just, all right, what's next? What else can you try to do? You want to try to do, I did tennis in the front yard. I did, like I said, home run derby, backyard football, 3-man football. It was anything just to stay busy, excited, ride your bike. You thought you were some kind of BMX guy. And, I don't ever think I got to BMX level of anything, but, riding your bike all around. So it was all about being active and getting out and running around. And I don't know, they say spend your energy. I never thought like my energy was gone, but I needed to use it.
Of course, this is back in the day. We're about the same age when our parents just said during the summertime, okay, it's daylight out. We'll see you when the lights come on. And
Right.
You didn't have anything else to do.
Yeah.
So most of these were other than playing in the backyard, most of these were sanctioned sports, correct?
Yes.
So how was it going from coach to coach to coach to coach, but not like soccer coach to another soccer coach? I mean, you're really going at like from diving. I mean, diving is a completely different type of coach than the
Yeah.
rest. So how did you adjust? What were some of the difficulties with going from sport to sport and dealing with the different styles of coaching?
For the most part, I saw them all in the same frame. These guys, typically that's what I had, were men, were telling me like, this is the way you need to do it. This is the point. So basically I saw everything as the same. It was, I'm trying to achieve and you're trying to help me achieve. So we're working together. You're giving me, even when you practice, I'm doing it because you tell me to do it, but ultimately it's because it helps me improve. So I just saw it all in the same way. I saw every coach as a person that's trying to assist me, do the best we can in this environment, whichever one it was. Were there differences? Sure. My diving coach was super laid back. And diving's got its own interest, right? I didn't start diving until I was in high school, my sophomore year. And, most people are used to jumping off the board front where, going forward. And some people are used to going off backward, but going off backward, but coming forward, or going off forward and coming backward. Those are two things I had never tried before. And the guy was just patient. He was like, just try this, just keep doing this. And so it helped me, because you see some intense coaches that could be, prone to frustration, or maybe just their style is, to yell to get their results. And that wasn't the kind of coach that was. But I think I'm fortunate. That's the way I look at it anyhow, is I didn't have many coaches that, you thought that they were going to fly off the handle and that was the way they were going to motivate you. Most of the coaches I had, just use sincerity, earnestness, do your best, I believe in you, all those other things that would to motivate you. I had that pretty much universally, I think.
That's pretty lucky, especially with how many years you played and how many different coaches. I mean, even you know, I can name a couple that probably were a little bit more bitter than others. Um, but what did you like? Okay, so was there one that really stood out as, a your favorite coach, or even maybe not your favorite, but just someone that motivated you better than everybody else, or got you to perform better than someone else, than another?
Yeah, it's my dad.
Oh,
He he was real intense, but we would talk, because it was dad. So we're going to practice or we're coming home from practice, and he's just talking sports with me. I don't know how much he thought this was, the point of it. He was like, "Oh, well, what do we think about the team and how does this go? And what do you think about players?" And it wasn't like for the purpose of me evaluating, but in his process of doing that, it convinced me a lot of things about what I wanted to do. So and the conversation came back so many times to, did you try your hardest? Did you do your best? And it was always motivational, because I would I bet you I almost always said yes, but the next time at practice or the next time in the game, I was trying to up that best. I was trying to give more than I had the last time. And so ultimately I think as what I try to give most of my players too, my sons as well, is that, you got to give it all, because I don't and listening and knowing people as players, some people, they say, oh, well, they're gifted athletes. I never felt, I guess, you don't know yourself, right? But as I look back on it, I think, well, I probably wasn't the most gifted athlete. Um, I I earned as much as I got. So I worked really hard. I put in a lot of time and effort. Um, I got there was, I'd be the guy that got the most hustle or the hardest worker kind of stuff. That's the kind of stuff I got all the time, because that's what I needed for me to be able to compete on a regular basis. I didn't have, I guess I still don't think I just had natural talents. That the natural talents came because of the hard work. And so I don't think it's natural then. This is the result of hours of effort and time and enjoyment. I mean, I'm not trying to paint it as, oh, he was always working. No, I worked hard and that was fun.
well, you brought up a point where you were a hustler, not in that bad sense, but in, you hustled a lot, you worked hard, and a lot of times those are also the leaders, and not necessarily by, role, but they're the leaders because they're the ones pushing others. What was the time, can you look back, or what sport where you felt, you looking back, that you were the leader? I mean, you may not have been given that title, but was there a time that your hustle kind of led to you being a leader?
Um, I hope that it came out between from sophomore year through junior year. So, including the 2 years, but between those 2 years in high school for soccer, um, I came to Marshall High School from Indiana uh, before my freshman year, and a lot of people played soccer, but I think I was the guy that looked like the soccer player. Like I was the guy, back in the day when they had the different color Sambas and other brands. I'm the guy wearing the blue Sambas, and nobody saw that in Marshall yet. So I was, I'm the guy wearing soccer shorts every day, and I'm the one with the soccer jerseys or whatever else. That just wasn't common in Marshall from anybody else that I knew, and I just liked it a lot. So when I got there as a freshman, it was fine. I played, and it was, I made the team and everything. But my sophomore year, I really started to try to exert myself. And between years, what happened between years was a whole bunch of that team left. And I, mentally I said, I want to be a captain.
Oh,
I
yeah.
want to be there, but I didn't know how else to be there other than to lead by example. So, I tried to bring people out and play soccer all the time. And I was doing that from freshman year because I wanted to play soccer. It was for myself. I was like, yeah, let's go play soccer. Well, how do I do that? Tell everybody we're going to play soccer. That's how I do it. I would call everybody and get everybody together and we'd play soccer. Well, whoever would show up. But then that hustle part of it came up, starting my junior year. I remember I still talk about this to friends where coach used to just send us on runs, and we don't know what the length of the run was, but it was like, here, go out past that around the other thing. And we knew the course. And I remember my freshman year, the first run I had, I sat at the back of the group and I just tried to maintain and manage, and I did fine, but I wasn't trying to do anything. And my junior year, I remember thinking to myself, first run, I was like, I'm going to win this. And I took off like crazy, like as hard as I could. I remember keep looking over my shoulder, just make I could do it. And I did that. That was what, start from practice one. I never stopped trying to do that throughout every practice for the next 2 years. And it's not that I won every one of those, but I wanted to demonstrate by example how hard I'm going to work at this part, plus everything else I did, in practice. I put in the time and the effort, and I wanted everybody to know, this is time, this is effort, this is, you put it in here so that way when it comes to game time, it can pay off. And, we can say that we were fortunate. We had some positive years come out of that, whether that's a result of anything, but yeah, and it's an extremely hard working group of guys that I played with. I look back at them and just appreciate how much they all wanted to compete and play, and we had fun doing it.
I'm on pins and needles. Did you make captain?
I did make
Oh,
captain.
jeez. Oh, thank God. With all of that work, I was gonna be upset. I was the guy that you would have been yelling at soccer. So high school, you multiple sports. Did any of them overlap?
In high school, it actually got easier. No, it was when I was younger, they overlapped. But in high school, everybody gets their own lane, right? So my freshman year, I went out and played soccer, and that season ended. And then I went and played basketball, and that season ended. And then I didn't have anything I wanted to do in spring at that time. So I guess you could say I was the manager for the women's team, but for me, it was whatever could I do to be around more soccer, play more soccer, touch the soccer ball more often.
Was that really the reason why you were manager of the women's team?
As sadly as it is, I mean, there were some great, great ladies on that team, but it was really the allure of, can I get to a soccer ball again?
Okay, I'll let you live on that one. Because I know your wife, I'll let you go with that one. Out of all of the sports that you played as a kid, what was your favorite?
Growing up, probably all the way through high school, it was basketball.
Yeah. What was your favorite moment?
In basketball, I don't know. There's probably probably the most exciting moment I had in basketball. I don't know. There's two of them. There was an intense game with a nearby rival in Indiana, and I remember coming close to the end of the game, and it felt like we were back and forth, tight game, and I took a charge on a guy down low who was driving the basket. And obviously you take a possession away from the other team that way. And as I recall it in my head, I don't know what the score was. I don't remember what happened, but it was one of those critical moments where every possession counted. And if they had gotten that bucket, I don't know if they would have tied or gone ahead by a little bit more. But that was one of I felt good about that moment where I was like, yeah, I did something great for the team that time.
I don't know what it was, but yes, exactly. I think those moments are great to look back on, because if we're going to be coaches and we're going to be pushing kids to work hard, we have to remember why we're doing it. And that's why right there, that moment right there is that love of accomplishment. So I think that's a great story. You moved to college. You stuck with soccer and diving, I believe, at least 1 year in college.
Yeah,
Correct?
I did dive 1 year in college too.
And did you play soccer throughout college?
I played all 4 years soccer.
Okay. You went to K College. Moving from high school to college, you've got high school coaches and then you're moving up. What was the biggest difference you saw in the coaching style between youth and the college level?
My college coach had a lot more experience and exposure, it seemed like to me. So his intent with style of play and making sure that we fit style of play, he was a German coach, and keeping possession was critical. It was always part of what we did, and that was more than anything else. High school soccer was great, but I think it was just allowed to be, kind of take advantage of the athletes, and they can do great. But then, you can't just be athletic enough in college. You have to have intent. The team has to understand the style and work that way together. And you could, with our teams, you could see what as that moved and gelled, the better we were able to work and understand the process, we would succeed. And that was, every year that's a process, especially in college where, every year a group leaves and another new group comes in, and everybody's got to come again and gel in that one style to make it successful.
K College has always had a really good soccer program, if I'm not correct. I met the current coach, a couple years ago. I trained under him to get my certification. How were they when you were around?
Yeah, they had a good reputation when I was there. I'm trying to remember. I know the year I came in, they had an MVP of the league the year before. I don't remember how they fared in the league that year previous. Our freshman year, I felt like was a down year. We actually got third in the league. We won the league twice while I was at K College, and I think we were second the other year. So,
Nice.
yeah, they were good. They were pretty successful.
How was it juggling college studies and sports? Because in college, I mean, high school, yeah, it's difficult to juggle sports with high school, but they also, it's high school, right? You're going to have on and off days, but college is pretty rigorous with the studies. So how was that juggling?
You get in the middle of it and you just figure out you're going to do whatever it takes to get done, right? So I look back and I realize that's the reason I started staying up much later, especially early on. As I got older, I was much better with time management, so I was going to bed at an earlier hour. I wasn't quite as excited just to be out on my own and make my own decisions, so that was okay to stay up till 2 a.m. my freshman year. Where my senior year, I tell everybody, I said, no, I figured it out. I was getting to bed by 11 p.m. because I was more judicious with my time. I kept it for certain things better. I didn't, because there's the ability to socialize, and if you do that instead of your studies and you still know you're going to get it done, then you're just going to end up doing your studies at a later time. So it was still rigorous, but the way I look at high school and college, it all seemed like it was the same. It was, I'm going to do both of these and I'm going to get them both done. So it was kind of a whatever it takes to get it done attitude.
All right. So we're moving from college playing soccer and now towards coaching. I know you started coaching right out of high school or right out of college. I apologize. Was that your first job or were you a teacher at that point?
Yeah, I was a teacher. And so when I became a teacher right away, I inquired about coaching soccer at the same school. And so we did at that time, as I recall, we only had a varsity team. So the varsity coach was welcome to have me out there. He said, yeah, sure, let's come on out. And, she had a good handle on the program. And she totally welcomed me and my experience and, the background I had. She thought that was great for the club. And so for the high school. And I just was happy to be able to continue to do what I had done for years at that point, was, show up after school and do my practice and do my, spend that time doing it.
We could ask the same question about you as a teacher, but you're not here as a teacher, you're here as a coach. How was your first experience walking on the field with these high school boys and girls when you are barely older than them. I mean, like you probably, I didn't know you back then, but I'm guessing with how old you look now and how young you look now, like you probably had players on the field that looked older than you. So how was that experience?
Yeah, you know, for me it was fine. I had no trouble. But I do look back on it now and chuckle about how young I looked, and that conversation about whether it be teaching or coaching. Um, yeah, I looked young. I know it, but it didn't feel like I was the same as those guys. So for me, it was definitely a difference. For the people around us, maybe they looked at us and said, "Man, he's barely old enough to coach them." I could see that for sure.
Did did they look up to you right away? Did they listen, or was it more or less they've been in the program for a while? Your head coach was had done her due diligence, and we're just gonna listen to her. How did that go when you first started?
I think for me, the benefit was having the experience. I had the abilities. I was still in shape. I was still able to move. My touch was still as good as it ever had been. Anyhow, I'm not going to say I had fantastic touch, but still better than most of the high school kids. So I was able to earn a lot of respect just in my ability to play, and that meant it translated to what I was telling them about. This is, do this or do this. It'll help you be more successful. These are the kinds of things to work on, to improve, to consider, to think about. So that went a long ways for me for earning respect at an early time with the team.
So I've known you a bit. You always seem like a calm, level-headed person. Ironically, we actually said this before this interview. I was saying that I was going to bring it up, but I've never seen you coach. You say you're a very competitive person. I can tell you're a competitive person, but I'm still trying to figure out, are you that calm, collective, competitive, or are you let's go, like pull your hair out when if it's like close down to the wire type? What describe what you think your coaching style is?
Boy, I think I'm mostly calm, even though I might have a tendency to request a reconsideration from the referee in the field. Um, Even that, it's just, to me, it's just part of the game where you're like, sir, referee, trying to get the attention, but that part doesn't rattle me. Even and even when the players are going to do things that you wish they'd done this way or that way. And so one of the things I used to do on the sidelines, and I used to make a point of it, I would say that the weirder, exclamations like, oh, cripes, oh, gee whiz, oh, shoot. And the kids would laugh at me, the high school kids, because they may have had more colorful language than that. And I said, well, you see, I can get the same thing out. I don't need to use anything more worse than that. So I'm definitely into the game, but I feel for the most part, I'm pretty calm. I definitely get excited. A close game is exciting, and I'm definitely working the sideline, walking up and down, and being active. But I don't think that explodes out onto the field. And there's been, I still remember we were in the state, playoffs that everybody gets into in high school when I was coaching covert after some years, my eighth or ninth year or something of that at coaching high school. And it was a really intense game. And I didn't feel like we were quite playing up to our level of play. And it was frustrating for me. And I kept trying to inspire my guys to get more excited. And I don't know if I had quite enough. I still think back to, did I have the emotion to give that to them, to bring them out on that Saturday afternoon to really lay it on the field, because maybe I was too calm at that particular moment. So, being calm is, I like to think I'm a calm coach, but sometimes that emotion from your coach is excellent to feed off of as well. And that's one particular day that I sometimes think maybe I needed more emotion to bring it to the boys, to get them built up to play, at a more intense pace, and just with more intensity.
I love that you think about that still. That's how we learn, right? We learn from our mistakes, and so many people block out the mistakes that we don't move forward. But I mean, not only probably does that help you more now when you're coaching or even just every day, but it could help everybody else listening too. Oh my gosh, I never would have thought of that. I'm too calm of a coach, or I'm not that. So I think that's a great point. Uh, Before we move on, what is your favorite memory of coaching high school?
That group at Covert, they had that one year we were successful, and I don't know how many other years, but I had been there with those kids for 3 years, and so we hadn't been super successful. And we had an internal rival. I don't know if everybody else knew it was a rival, if it was always a rival with everybody else, but there was a team that we played that we wanted to beat more than any other. And so we had that game at home with those guys, and they were, that was one of those days where the guys were ready to play. They were out and they were ready to go. They just had some, and they went out and played a great game. And I just remember feeling, that same emotion, because I knew they wanted to show up. I knew that they wanted to make sure that they could, did everything they wanted in that game, not let this one go and all of that. And so just having all that come together in that day, and those guys be so happy with the result of that game, coming through in a big moment. So that's a moment that stands out as a coach, knowing that the guys got the enjoyment out of that game that they wanted and achieved what they were hoping for.
So you had players that were you teaching high school at the time?
Yes.
What was the dynamic in the school during school when you had your players in your class? How was that dynamic?
I think that was actually kind of more difficult for the players than it was for me, because they were hoping to have, oh, well, he's my coach, and maybe have a little bit of slack. But I consider, the math, I teach math, or I taught math, and that was just as important to me. So, when the players would hope that I give it to them easy, or wouldn't give them homework, or would take it easy because they had to study for a test, I was like, no, this is totally separate. This is the academic side of it. I know you can handle this too. And there's the athletic side. And so anything that they tried to get from me because I was the coach didn't really work out. I had one player that went to the bathroom or showed up late from lunch or something, something along those lines. And I said, you do this one more time, we're gonna have some words. And it wasn't about soccer. I never brought it to the soccer field and said we're gonna deal with it here. We were gonna deal with that in the classroom. And he looked at me and laughed and said, but he straightened out that behavior. And it just makes me laugh, because no, that was two different places. And you didn't have to worry about me harassing you about soccer play in the classroom, nor did you have to worry about me, telling you at soccer about what you need to do in math class. But they also didn't get you any special benefit because I was the soccer coach. I didn't get you out of classes, and I didn't do anything else that was going to be special just for you because you were one of my players.
I was so hoping you were going to punish him with suicides. I was waiting for that. I don't know why, but that's kind of where my mind was like, oh, he's going to do it. No, he didn't. All right. So now you're a parent coach now. You have two boys. What is the biggest difference between being a club high school coach with kids you only know through school or in the school setting, to being a coach of your boys and their friends? I mean, let's face it, some of those kids on those teams you've known before you started coaching. Mm-hmm. What do you find the biggest differences between the two?
Well, the difference is, as I was able to separate being the teacher and the coach, I can't separate being the parent and the coach. And I'm concerned for my boys all the time, because I'm a much harder coach for them than I am with the rest of the boys, with what they should do, what they need to do, what the expectation is. And so I get concerned, that I'm not being fair to my own sons. So a lot of times, if I have an assistant coach, what I'll do is I'll play that with them. And most of my assistant coaches have had sons too. And not that I won't coach my own son, but it'll tend to be, I'll make a point of going to their son and letting my son go to them, because you approach another boy much more objectively than you do your own son when he's out there, and you're hoping that he wakes up and plays hard and wants to go and, doesn't lollygag or whatever it is. That stuff that, drive me crazy. Where I'm like, come on, I need you out there. Where I know the same response I give to a different player is not the same response I necessarily give to my own. So that's the toughest part about having my own boys on the team, is because I want to be just as fair to them But I know I am much harder of a coach on them overall than I am the rest. And so I try to temper that with my assistants.
So our last episode just aired a little bit when Derek and I are talking right now, and so I can already tell he hasn't watched that episode because Coach Al said almost exactly the same thing. In fact, I'm his co-coach. We coach together and we do the exact same thing. So all of you parent coaches out there, have a good assistant that can work with your kids. So it, I think that's brilliant. Do you what about their friends? I mean, the ones that know you, or do they feel like, and I'm not saying like you would treat them any different, but do they expect something different because maybe they've been at your house to spend the night, with their buddies, and you've had more of a relationship with them and their families than you have with the newer kids? Is there any weird dynamic with that?
I don't notice that. If anything, when I know them better and as I get to know them, I try to use that to my advantage in the way that I coach them or motivate them or demonstrate or take time to show them something or take the advantage of like, well, you're going to be comfortable or more comfortable with me. So I'm going to bring you in on something because, and knowing what they care about, what they think about, how they perceive things out there, just in general. So I guess I've never noticed it, not personally anyhow. I try to take all these things to my advantage, and I say to my advantage in terms of how do we help them improve and the team do well because we're more comfortable because we know each other a little bit more.
You took away my question, and I appreciate that. I've noticed that all of my guests tend to do that. Where we were going to talk about, are you harder on your sons than the other players? We know you are. You said that. Is there ever a time that you can go back, and I know this is going to be hard to bring up, but where you felt you overstepped, you just went that too far? And
Yeah, there's been some times in the game where I was trying to get the attention of my sons, and I was like, that wasn't the right way to do it. And I I think I did the right thing, at least that's as far as I'm concerned, and said, look, I'm sorry, that I did that in the game, that I pushed it that way. Um, I really wanted this for you, but I didn't do it the right way. So I try to go back and talk to my sons and say, this is what should have happened, and this is not the way I should have done it. I'll try to do better, and we'll talk through it. Not totally letting them off the hook for whatever, but saying, but even if you did do something like that, that's not the way I need to be handling the game situation.
I feel that, that's a good thing for parents as coaches, and I'll say parents as well. We try to talk to our parents about being coaches on the sideline when they shouldn't be, right? Let it to the coach. But I've heard parents say some things that I'm like, this is I mean, we're here to win, but it's a game, right? I mean, these kids are supposed to have fun. And so I think that's important for parents to hear that even us as coaches, yeah, we may say something, but we can go back and say, hey, I apologize. This was too much it was too much excitement. So
Yeah.
good to hear. Now okay, so you've coached just about every level of youth, including AYSO, the 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 core of soccer. What, 90% of all players have played ASO at some point, right? Facts, not real. Uh, and AYSO is a wonderful club. I spent many years doing it. My kids all started in ASO. My youngest will still hit ASO for a little bit. Uh, but they're very much parent volunteer, very little training. What do you feel coming in as, I mean, you got paid to coach. You got paid to coach high school. I mean, for the most part, right? I mean, it's a stipend, but it's still a paid position.
Yeah.
What do you feel the difference between coaching high school is with ASO, and how did you treat those years any differently, because it is more of a everybody gets a turn type thing instead of
Yeah.
playing a single position. Tell me about your experience with going with ASO?
Yeah, with ASO, I made a point to make sure everybody got nearly identical time. I made a point to put players in all positions, regardless of what they seemed already suited well for, or what would be the best for the team to win. I made a point of positional play as opposed to, play to win. And with high school, I still want all my players to play. I still wanted everybody to get on the field, but I wasn't as compelled to give as much time to everybody then as I was in ASO. And I thought that as a philosophical matter anyhow. Um, I think that ASO is designed for that. It is an opportunity for that. And when they got to high school, they understood that this is not everybody gets to be on the field just as much as everybody else. We all want to, but we earn it to a certain amount. And so that was the big difference for me. And I get it, like to me, that's what ASO is for and what it's about. And you can continue, and you should promote that. That's exactly what the younger ages are for, is for everybody to get out there and to get a feel for the game and to get a feel for a lot of positions and learn, kind of what it's going to be like for them.
How do you know what you really want to play if you don't get to try it all?
Right.
Absolutely. Right. We're going to get really deep here. Whether it's high school or travel or ASO, whether it's with a team of kids that are not yours or your boys, what is your biggest fear as a coach?
These coincide with teaching, because I think of coaching like I thought of teaching. And I was always teachers. Afraid. Yeah. My biggest fear was always, what was my impact that caused them ultimately not to be able to move forward? Did I cause somebody to not be able to enjoy soccer so that they didn't keep playing, or I put them in a position where they couldn't be successful, so I kept playing them at forward, or I kept playing them at defense, and I didn't give them opportunities to play forward or defense, and that's kind of the reason they lost interest. My biggest fear is that people left the game as a result of what I did as a coach.
That's a pretty deep fear. I think about that all the time when we're working on lineups and stuff like that. So pretty great answer there. Last big question, and I kind of want a why or why not answer with this, and it may be quick. I don't know. We'll see. But your oldest is only a few years from high school. Now, he loves soccer now still. If he decides to play high school, you used to be a teacher at that high school. Would you consider trying out for coach, or at least being an assistant?
Man, yeah, I hadn't considered that. When I was still teaching at the high school, that seemed like a better possibility.
Sure.
More reasonable. Now that I'm not teaching there,
you have ins. I know you have ins. You have a lot of friends there still.
Yeah, and the current coach there is a guy that I played with. He's quite a few years younger than I am, but still, we managed to be on the same soccer team. I talked to him, and I don't know if that's good enough to get me a position, but would I want to, should I, it's part of the question, should I even do that? At some point, I feel like it is worth it for my son to experience a different coach. So far, I've been his primary coach. He's had other coaches, but I feel like I've always been there as one of the guys on the sideline, regardless if he's had other coaches. I can't think of many games where I've been on the side just to watch, and try to keep my mouth closed about playing. In fact, I just don't talk as loud. That's what I do. I still coach, but I just coach out loud to myself. Nobody can hear me coach, because that's how I can. It's the only way I can tolerate being on the sideline. Yeah, exactly.
You coached your wife.
Yeah, right. So I don't know. Again, without putting too much time and thought into this, because I would overthink this for sure. I'd say right now I wouldn't push myself there. I would hope that at that point he can go in with that coach and learn their style and and get in with that team and sort of take it and be his own. And we can still have conversations. If that's something he really wants to do, we'd probably do it either way, because that's something I enjoy. I like talking about soccer, and I'm hoping he's playing and he's wanting to talk about and analyze his game and think about how he played and how the team played and what's the style and, what can we do? And, as you can keep thinking about those things, and hopefully you're thinking about how do you change and mold and get better. But I think right now I would just let him go with the current coaches at the school.
That was a great dad answer. How would you want to, though? Put your son aside. Would you want to be a coach for your kid in high school? Would it be easier to be a coach, or would it be easier to be a fan?
It would be easier to be a coach. As far as the soccer experience, I mean, we know how much time and effort goes into coaching. So as far as my life goes, it would be easier to be a fan. I could just show up. I wouldn't have to be there an hour before, an hour after,
Right.
Figuring out, all the logistics, or, figuring out, training sessions and practice, every day of the week. So, and that level, it's easier to be the fan. But for what I like about soccer, for what I want out of the game, it would be easier to be the coach. At least I would feel like I had my hands in. So at least when you're in the game, there's nothing to second guess about it. I did whatever I could do, and the results, favorable or unfavorable, you consider those, but you were part of the game. I appreciate that side of it, and that's why it's easier for me to think about it that way. Because I know if I'm not in the game, you consider, well, what could I have done having not been there? And that's, not second guessing the coach so much as considering, an alternate reality where you get to be the coach.
Your sideline coach.
Yep.
Exactly. All right. Overtime. These are the fun questions, right?
Okay.
I think I have a few for you that I think you're going to enjoy, and maybe not, but I'll enjoy them. So that's all that matters. So this is overtime. Craziest, you were a diver.
Yeah.
Which blew me away. I didn't know that about you. I figured you were athletic. I didn't expect you to be a diver. Craziest dive you could do?
The craziest one I probably did was the full twisting front 2.5 off the 3-meter springboard. That's the one that's gonna probably attract the most attention to the people watching. I describe my diving like NASCAR. People like to go to watch, why do people watch NASCAR?
To watch,
because they want to see the wrecks. Well, I was the guy. I was the crash.
That's awesome. All right. Can you still do that trick? Can you still do that dive?
No, I can't jump off that 3-meter board. It's high. It's scary.
What would be the craziest thing you could do right now?
I could go on a 1-meter springboard and do a full twisting front 1.5.
Still?
Yeah.
Gosh, I got to lose weight.
I don't know if it's got to do with weight.
No, it has to do with, if I lose the weight, I'll be a little bit more mobile and I might be able to keep up with you. But I hate hearing people my age being actually in shape. You played tons of sports. Which one did you not want to try, but you still tried?
I wanted to try all of them. Which one did I want to stop trying earliest? It was wrestling. My parents had done a great job well before I got to wrestling. I think I did it in 7th grade, of saying you get into something, you do something, you finish what you started. So I never told anybody that I wasn't having fun. I lost every single wrestling match I wrestled that year. So at meets, I wasn't having fun. I still was able to earn my weight class from the team, but I didn't win at any meets, and that was really frustrating. I've had my share of luck and good winning seasons and also other losing seasons, but losing at wrestling as an independent, as the only person on the mat, the only person responsible for the win or loss was me. That one took a lot of drain on my psyche.
I bet. So wrestling. All right. This one I threw in for just complete fun. If your wife, Nikki, wanted to join an adult league, she just all of a sudden decided she wanted, whether it's soccer, whatever she wanted to do, would you coach her?
No way. Oh no. No. My marriage would not last long enough for me to coach her even one game.
And I've known your wife longer than I've known you, and I love her to death, but I wouldn't want to coach her just because. Now, would you play against her?
No, no, she'd be mad at me. I know it already. I'm in trouble even being on the other team. I can tell you both ways, I'm in trouble.
All right, Nikki, I want to hear your feedback if you listen to this. Sports drink or water? Quick answer.
Water.
You went the healthy route, huh?
Yeah. When
All
we were
right.
growing up, we didn't have as much of that sports drink stuff.
Oh, whatever. Gatorade was around way before we were. Come
Yeah,
on.
but did you have it at all your games and everything else? I had water all the time.
I'm pretty sure we had that orange powder drink, whatever that was. I don't even think it had a name. It was the same stuff that was at McDonald's that they just poured the powder in.
Right.
That's what we had. What sport would you be up for coaching other than soccer?
Well, I'd be up for all of them. I laugh because talking about wrestling, when I was in high school, they're always looking for volunteers to help with things. So I used to watch, I used to go and help with the wrestling team, and I used to love it. It was exciting. I kept thinking to myself, man, if I had spent a few more years, I might have been able to understand a couple of things that made these guys who were good at it a little bit better, and I could have improved. But I like the idea of even wrestling. But what would I really want to coach or be able to coach? It's funny because I respect the people who do it as experts in their field. And so I played a lot of basketball, I played a lot of baseball, but I never figured myself enough of an expert to take over coaching. I figure I've got, oh, maybe through fifth grade, or maybe, whatever age fifth grade is, or up maybe through some junior high on anything but soccer. And then I need to turn it over to somebody who's got more experience and more skill than I do. Um, I'd probably go back to basketball, as what I said, my first love growing up in Indiana. I used to, that story of what's Indiana State tree. It's a tree with a backboard and a hoop, nailed against it. I believe that I put in more hours and more time playing basketball to no avail. Anybody who's seen me play basketball or knows how I play basketball, they would agree that I didn't really have any true chance of being a fantastic basketball player, but I still enjoyed going out and doing what I said with soccer, which just was working really hard.
Good answer. Last question. Funniest thing or oddest thing that has ever happened to you as a coach?
Funny or odd? I don't know. It's probably something with the girls. The girls' high school team, the high school teams that I coached early on, they would have, you know, it's like sometimes they just wanted to see me squirm and get uncomfortable. And so I think that was some of it for them. They would just know, like, we're going to do this, or we're going to say this, or we're going to do something. And the coach was a woman and the team was all women. And I loved coaching. It just didn't matter about soccer. So I had a great time with that. But every once in a while, they'd make sure that they knew, like, let's see what Coach Dee does about this. And I would be like, the woman's name was Stacy Bolin. I'd say, Bolin, that's you. And I would just sort of like, give it 10 paces or whatever and walk away, and they'd all laugh at me and I'd come back. So it's probably just something that they were doing to tease me about being the boy at the girls' practice, basically.
All right. Well, I appreciate you on here. I want to give you a minute or two to give one piece of advice that you could give to a player or an upcoming coach or even a parent coach. Just through your athletic years of tenure, what's just one good piece of advice for everybody?
Well, for the players, it's the same philosophy that I always went with. If you don't give everything, then you have a lot more regrets. But if you did everything you could every time you went out there, there's nothing you can say about that performance other than I can keep trying to get better, between now and the next performance. So, give it everything you got, every chance you got. For the coaches, don't be afraid to let the game teach. As hard as that is, the game, just letting them play. And they say the game teaches, I think that's a misnomer a little bit. I know the game teaches, but really the kids learn through playing. You know, they decide if they want to play harder. They decide if they're, what the new move was, what they're going to do to counteract whatever's, making them unsuccessful. But just opportunities on the field and time with the ball and, games being set up. And it doesn't take a lot of, freezing the play to demonstrate something or running drills and activities. They'll pull these things in themselves if they get the opportunity. And I really think, as much as I would love to every training session, just throw the balls out and say, here's the field, let's go play. I don't even do that enough, but I really think that, what I should encourage for my boys in the front yard to be like, here's the ball, here's a couple goals. Why don't you guys go have some fun and play some soccer and, figure out what you enjoy about it and what's about it, because ultimately that was something that I kept with me forever. And I still remember all the times before a game, right before a game started, right before half, I'd take one of those deep breaths. I try to look around, especially in high school. And I think, this is why I woke up today. I woke up to play soccer because, right. We love to play, didn't we? So you try to enjoy and appreciate and know that one moment, it's fleeting, as we know in our age now. We would give anything to go back and have those opportunities again. But every chance you get on the field and play, man, that's wonderful.
Great words. Coach Dee, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I appreciate you coming here, and you were one of my first volunteers when you found out when I announced my first episode. You were quick to say, hey, call me. So I really appreciate that. I loved learning about you some more, and anything else that you have to say or want to tell anybody?
No, I appreciate you. I'm excited to be part of this. You've had so many great coaches before me. It's kind of humbling to put myself in this forum, because those guys have been some excellent coaches, some excellent players. And so I hope that in some way I can measure up, but I just appreciate you giving me an opportunity and being willing to hear my story.
I believe every coach has a story, and we all can learn from each other's stories. Doesn't matter what level. I'm going to call this the rivalry edition episode, considering we've got our two teams on here, and it's a fun rivalry. It's been a blast to see the two clubs really, off the field can be really fun and know each other in schools and stuff like that. Yeah. But on the field, it's intense, even at the younger levels. So we'll call this a rivalry episode. Absolutely. And Derek Dee, Coach Dee, thank you so much for everything. Listeners, stay tuned for more episodes. I have a few lined up that I have a fast pitch softball coach that's going to be coming up soon. I have a few other tricks and hidden gems that we're going to be pulling out. A lot of coaches that have a lot of experience. So I appreciate you, the listeners. Appreciate Coach Dee. We'll see you guys later. This is the Coach's Handbook. Bye, everybody.
This the best time. Why you wanna be an outcast? Numbers don't lie, you gain a lot from this math class. It takes time to be great, you can learn the lesson. Blood, sweat, and tears, heartbeat of a champion. Big or small, your heart is the biggest weapon. So follow before you lead and water and plant your seeds. When it's all said and done, you be the best they ever seen. So listen to my catalog on this coach's blog.